As much as Overdress season has been quite an okay season for Vanguard, one of the best aspects of Overdress is in its introduction, with Quick Start Deck and the DVTO1 are some of the best products that they have released during the period of Overdress. Unfortunately though, the streak has been broken with the Quick Start Deck for Divine.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
So today I'm not going to be talking much about the price and a little bit of like shitty marketing tactics on Bushiroad's side. We're going to be focusing more towards the boss unit and whether is it worth trying to build a deck out of it, because everyone has to buy one of these for the energy crest anyway. And the answer to that question to me is a resounding yes, but that providing if you're willing to put some investment into those units, as these boss units has two similarities that is something that really shines in the upcoming era of Divines, and that is, for one, all of these units rely on Energy Blast for its main skill. I'll get to the skill later, but it's essentially a good way to teach newer player and also the older player on how to utilize a brand new energy system. And then its second similarity, which in my opinion is the main contender of why these units are so good, is its ability to be able to fetch itself from deck for the personal right and increase the power for itself by 10k. This is very good, not only for like teaching perspective, but it also in like a competitive side, because ability to get a guaranteed personal right has always been one of the biggest struggle for many of the decks in Overdress. So having a start deck unit capable of doing that is a huge plus. And the plus 10k, even though it's not that huge, it does help to make the turn 3 of this boss unit actually a little bit more, I don't know what's the best way to put it, but like it gives enough oomph for the turn without being it too broken. But overall I have to say just these 2 points alone is actually worth to try building this quick start boss unit. And I'll have to say this first, this unit does have some problem, and that is a lot of them tends to rely on your status on the field to actually get their play out right, except for one, and that is the Dragon Empire boss unit, Thundering Dragon, Triumph Dragon. This unit energy blast for is when it attack a Vanguard, pay the cost, then retire one of your opponent ray cards, plus 5k and critical. Simplicity is one of the best part about Triumph Dragon, as it doesn't really rely on anything else but energy. And in my honest opinion, it is the most consistent unit when it comes to pressure thanks to its additional crit. We also have to take into consideration of the fact that it also gained additional 10k on its own. So overall it is a very balanced unit, and as we look into the right line, the right line is alright in its own as well. So we have the grade 1, which essentially give you free draw with energy blast, and the grade 2 that does help you to energy charge or call itself from soul to ray card circle. So essentially it does fix and
build your board to a state
where it helps to guarantee that you will always energy blast for almost every single turn. And when it comes to its synergy with the pre-access Dragon Empire cards, I would say it has a decent one. And in the places I think many of you guys might not be expecting, Eugene and Retire Engine. So with things like Hoflagan for the cycle card, Clifton and the brand new common Dino Dragon for the additional powers. And overall I think the deck just tuned well with the Retire Engine in general without actually being affected like Eugene. So essentially the deck does have a good synergy with it. It is self-sustainable and you don't really need too much setup for it. But here is a problem. Its simplicity is also its biggest problem.
My son is a basic bitch.
Because of the fact that that is all Triumph Dragon do. It doesn't do anything more than that. And because of that, to be able to boost its power to the next level, is either Bushiroad had to give something really broken for the deck, or you know, they just take a Eugene route, give a subpar support, and the deck just stay 3 attack deck that is able to pressure with Vanguard attack. So with all that considered, I'm gonna grade this unit a B-. Its very good simplicity actually bring it up from the average of C, but because of the fact that it cannot go anything beyond that, it have to be stuck at B-, because you know the potential of it to grow is much smaller compared to the other 5 units of the quick start deck. One of such unit is the Dark State quick start deck boss, Kirby's Demonic Lord, Osella Jess. Osella Jess on attack energy blast skill is essentially allowing you to call any card that is grade 3 or less from your soul and have that unit plus 10k until the end of turn. I will have to say this first, Osella Jess is a very flexible boss unit and refreshingly so for a Dark State deck, mainly due to the fact that for one, most of the Dark State deck either rely on a specific amount of soul or a specific card in soul to actually play around the skill. Osella Jess does have that restriction, but it is not as harsh as some of the units we have seen so far. And not only that, Osella does have a great red line in which the grade 1 helps you to soul charge and get additional power for the turn 2, and the grade 2 give you additional draw as long as you have 5 or more cards in your soul. And in my honest opinion, that is a condition that is easy to activate, and that's the only instances of soul count that this deck has, which means that this deck is currently capable of mixing with both Soul Blast engine and the Soul Shard engine, and the most importantly, the normal order engine. This allows Osella to be able to have access to one of the strongest support that Dusted has, but not a lot of decks can utilize it. And also, Cage of the Broken Star, one of the strongest normal order you have in the Dusted as well. But here is a problem with Osella. It is missing a lot of good rear target to call. I know there is a few good units to call, like the Grade 2 itself for additional shield, the Timeless Pierce Dragon for guard restrict, and Falcracia for essentially just a big beast stick while recovering card from drop zone. These are good and all, but I feel that it has the same issue that Lequia has, and that is its attack pattern is very easy to telegraph, which make guarding this deck very easy to do, as a lot of generic cards in Dark State tends to lean more towards the resource side of life rather than the actually beating down the opponent. I mean, there are some cards, but you know, you need to spend more effort into trigger those card effects. And because of all that reason, I'm also gonna give Osella a B-. Compared to other decks that have a similar effect, he is definitely a weakest out of the three, in the sense that you have to do the most for him to actually make it work, and there are not a lot of good cards to really mix in yet, especially with Darkstead having the worst generic roster out of the 6 nations.
Disappointed!
So I think for this deck, it needs a little bit more specific support, which he will be getting, to actually improve his playstyle. However, this next boss doesn't really need it, as even with just a current generic engine, he is pretty busted on its own, provided you manage to get all the pieces. And that unit is Blitz Giga Mobile Astrom. Astrom's energy blast skill is when he attacks a Vanguard, restand one of your rare cards and have this unit and the stand unit plus 5k. It sounds small at first, but we have to talk about his specific set order.
Preciosa.
Wait a minute! It's
Preciosa.
not Leviosa.
Which does give you additional 5k for both the stand and himself when you trigger a strong restand effects. And with his right line able to search for up to 2 of the Petronas already, that means that by the time you play into turn 3, you will have a guaranteed restand that increase that unit power by 15k and to himself as well. And in the much later part of the game, you will plus 25k to both units, which makes this deck the most powerful out of the 6 in terms of power level. And when it comes to synergy with the engine, he has a lot of cards to play around. We have Chief Mechanic for the search of the set order, Zodiac for the same reason. You can also run additional copy of Refurbish just so that you can use the grade 2 for boosting, and also Combine Rusher, which in my opinion is a better partner with Astrom compared to the card that they revealed in the stream.
How could this happen to me?
Overall, I would say Astrom has a lot to go for. With its weakest problem is that even with the counter charge, this deck is extremely counter blast heavy, especially if you're considering cards like Combat Rusher and also Habitable Zone that I forget to mention earlier. And also, if you fail to get all the pieces in time, his power noticeably drops. And not only that, his best turn, unlike the other quick start deck, is in turn 4. Like, you rather have all 4 Pretonas on your set order to actually get the best out of him, so he can be a little bit slow. But despite all that, he is still to me a grade A unit. Here is the thing, having a Blitz in his name also means that he have access to Blitz engine like Lubetzel and Iskra and Hofolio to actually activate the product, because these 2 units doesn't need Veilshrine in his name. So essentially, he has a more synergy with the roster in Vanguard the most compared to the other nation, purely because of the fact that he have Blitz in his name. But he is definitely had a few things that kind of holded him back. But because of the fact that he mixed so well with the Vanguard engine, he's easily one of the strongest. The same I can't say it to the Keter Quick Start deck boss, Salvation Wing Angel Saref Sile. This card Energy Blast is, in my opinion, the strongest out of the 6, as when he attacks a Vanguard, you pay the cost, you can call any normal unit that is grade 3 or less from drop zone and have that unit plus 10k. Ability to call things from drop zone is really good, especially it is in mid battle. This means that you can utilize things like Drilling Angel and Gadiber to actually chain into 5th attack, or you can call cards back like Gwendolyn or Sarges for a really fat number attack. But this is where his problem lies. He have a lot of cards that he can extend, but at the same time he doesn't have a lot of cards that can do a lot of beat stick. I know that I mentioned Sarges and Gwendolyn earlier, but the thing is that there are some caveats with this unit that prevent you from using it consistently, and you need to set up your drop, which Keter doesn't really prepare for that at the moment. But regardless, it is still a very strong unit and has the biggest potential out of the 6. And Sarah's Spell right line is also quite useful with grade 1, giving you option to either superior call the top card that you check or add it to hand at the cost of a discard. And the grade 2 is a straight up generic Rosalita from Prism. So with all that in mind, I'm gonna grade Saref Sile to A-. The reason why I put minus is because his synergy with Keter, even though it works, it kind of holded down by the fact that Keter generic engine are very focused on utility, and a lot of card that is considered an attacker in this deck is not playable in Saref Sile. But regardless, this deck has so much potential compared to any other quick start decks, especially if you're comparing with another boss unit that has a very similar effects, and that is the Stoicheia quick started boss, Marin General of the Great Sea, Christianos. That name reminded me of something.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
Christianos has quite a unique skill because he is the only Act Energy Blast full skill out of the 6, and his skill is Mill 2 card and call any 2 grade 3 or less card from your drop zone to Regas Circle. I'll have to say, this sounds bad at first, and in my honest opinion, you could have just slot in plus 5k to those 2 cards that was called from drop zone, and it wouldn't really affect the deck too much. But I would say this deck does have a lot of potential if you know what to play, because it is possible with things like Philander, Emilios, and Yolanda, which allow you to essentially just get a huge draw engine with it, on top of cards like High Tide, which work disgustingly well with this deck. Christianos is like a buff subgraph without a crit, like downright. And not only that, it has a better draw engine. On top of that, his right line also is pretty useful in itself, with the grade 1 allow you to essentially just draw 2 for discard 2, helping you to build your drop zone for later turn, and also for cards like Philander. But also, the grade 2 allow you to call 1 grade 1 or less card back from drop zone, which allow you to essentially just build your board very quickly. I'll have to be honest here. Initially, when I say Christianos, I'm thinking, why you release a 3 attack deck, as Stoicheia has some of the strongest multi-attack generic support that you can get with things like Inlet. But now that I have playtested him, he's actually not as bad as a lot of people think it is. But the fact that he doesn't give additional power to the Superior Core unit really hurts him in that regard, and because of that, I'm gonna grade him B. Just personally for me, giving 5k to the Superior Core back unit could have been okay, because you know, it's a 3 attack. Unless they are planning to give a 4th attack for Christianos, we don't know. So for now, I'm gonna rate him in B grade. He is definitely my biggest surprise out of the 6. And to be fair, the runner-up when it comes to surprisingly good department is definitely the last of the quick start deck boss. Love call Marin. Marin Energy Blast 4 is very simplistic and will remind you of Kairi, as when she attacks, choose one of your Regard and return it to hand, and then you can call 1 grade 3 or less card from your hand, call it to Regard Circle, open Regard Circle by the way, and this unit plus 10k until the end of turn. So what makes this card so good is that there is a lot of cards that you can actually mix and play with this deck that makes it work really well. But I'll have to say this caveat first. It has to be played with normal order engine with this deck, thanks to cards like Sweet, which is easily one of the worst triple R in a lot of people's mind. But to me, the fact that it's a free filter order that is generic just boggles me why people say it's bad. But somehow it works in this deck, as we have cards like Virginia to essentially just give you additional soul and counter charge, and Straya to chain into more filtering and also essentially do a lot of chunky attacks. And not only that, you can use unit like Blanc, which is the cycle card, that allow you to get additional power to the front row afterward, allowing you to go double Blanc in one turn during the personal ride, making this deck surprisingly feels like a better version of Kairi.
Emotional damage.
Especially if you're considering the right line, which has a literary ability to clone anything that you call by the grade 1 effect, which included the PG, and you can bounce it back with the grade 2 skill. So essentially, if you have one PG in your hand at the start of the game, you might as well have two of them in your hand afterward, unless you're up against a control deck. So Marin, I think what makes her so interestingly good is the fact that she synergizes well with many of the strong support that people use competitively, but the deck still have problem. If you fail to play the order, your deck engine kind of come to a halt, but not completely. And because of all that, this might be a surprising ranking for you guys, but I'm gonna rank it B+ for Marin. She is much better than I expected, but I feel she needs to be played a specific way at the moment for it to actually work. It kind of limited her build a bit, especially 3 of the cards that we are using are extremely expensive. But yeah, that is pretty much all the ranking I want to put for all of the quick start decks. I would say they are not terrible to build as a budget option, but it is definitely have room for improvement, especially Bushiroad are planning to actually improve those units. But what do you guys think? Do leave down in the comments below on what you guys think about all these quick start deck boss units. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Take care of yourself, and this is Mac Megane signing out.